Okay, tube sizing 101. Been a while since I've done one of these, so y'all are just gonna have to, I guess, bear with me, get back on my feet, because as you know, I don't edit anything. What you see is what you get. Uh, that way y'all get the actual experience, not a Hollywood production. So anyway, uh, again, apologize for the lousy camera. If this thing shuts off, then there will be a part two. I do have a problem sometimes with this camera shutting off at certain intervals, so we'll just re-upload another one. So, first off, I guess, and this might get a little lengthy, might get a little wordy, because again, I don't have this planned out, but I guess we probably start off with going through the different types of lube. Again, this is lubing your tubes. Remember, it's boob tube, so we have to watch our wording. Okay, so don't really remember what all the videos we've done so far. I know on the Patreon we have several on the tube inspections. Again, I didn't clean any of these. Cleaning's not something you have to do. It does make them nice and bright and shiny. You don't want to let them get so far gone that they start corroding, but general case tarnish, that's a norm. So that's why my cases aren't bright and shiny, because they're for my buddy and he doesn't care. Alright. I'm also sipping on my coffee on the way through here, because like I said, this might take a while. I use a water-based lube. I do have some contentions with the Lee Corporation these days, as those of you that follow me or those of you that know me. But however, the water-based lube we use for several reasons. One, you do not have to clean it off. I do wipe them down after I get them loaded, or after I get them sized, I'll wipe them down, but it's not something you have to actually clean. RCBS lube is a very good lube. The tube lube in the RCS, not the spray-on. I'm not a fan of the spray-ons. If you use the petroleum-based lubes, you have to clean those cases, because any petroleum-based or oil-based lube will degrade the powder. It will degrade the primer if it's not removed. Again, why I use water-based lube. Drawbacks to water-based lube, in case y'all haven't seen the Patreon video. The drawbacks to water-based lube is it's water-based. Your dyes are steel. Water will rust steel. Your cases are brass. It's not really a problem with the brass, because it does dry so fast on the brass. Again, we'll get into that in a minute. Cleaning your dyes afterwards, or letting the lube dry on the bullets first. But let's see here. Before we get into the prep only water base, I guess we'll go ahead and do the pros and cons. One of the problems, and we will show that here in a minute on the dyes, is, again, I'm trying to do this behind the camera, on your shoulders, between the shoulder and the neck. A lot of people have a problem with getting dents or lines in this area. That is hydraulic dimpling. This press is just like a hydraulic press. It's a ram, and if you don't have any place for that lube to go, it's going to be just like running that through a hydraulic forming press. It will dent your shoulders and can even dent the sides of the case. I've never had that problem with the water-based lube, even if we have a stopped up vent hole in the dye. because this is generally going to be dry most of the time before it goes in the dye. And for those of you that haven't seen the other vids over on the Patreon, again, gotta watch my YouTube nomenclature. We've got some good vids over there. Now, I'm not going to screw up my lock ring. Generally, most of the time, your vent hole is going to be under your lock ring. Let's see if I've got an empty dye body here. Those are our carbide, so no I don't. Okay, it was worth a check. But there's a pinhole that's drilled. It'll be between two threads. And it'll be a pinhole that's drilled all the way through to the inside of the dye body. What that is it's a vent hole. If you ever start getting the hydraulic dimpling in your cases, first thing to do, check your vent hole. Like I said, you'll probably have to take your lock ring off, but they're pretty easy to see. It's just a pinhole size, needle size pinhole. Take you a needle, take you a straight pin, stick in there, clean that out. But that's the reason you're getting those hydraulic dimples, is because that vent hole, it's allowing the air to back up in with a gel type or even liquid type lube, and it's causing hydraulic dents. That's another downside to petroleum based lubes. Before we get into the water base, even though I am using a water base on this pad, and I called Lyman about it when I first got this pad, the Lyman pads, this has a cloth type face. I have to bring it back here to take it out, but come on out of there. This is just like a hard plasticized foam with a cloth face over it. And as you can see, they do tend to get dirty. These don't wash off very well. That's another thing I don't like about this lube pad. However, it was bought for me. It was a gift. I had it, so I didn't see wasting the money on another lube pad. But I'm almost to the point of chunking this one and buying me a new lube pad. These are made for petroleum-based gels with that cloth face. I did call Lyman. I asked them about it. They said, no, that pad is not meant to be used with water-based lube. I did find a way around that, which I will show you that shortcut in a minute if you have one of these type pads. If you're a newbie and you're going to go buy you a pad, I highly recommend the RCBS, just the green RCBS pad. Another nice thing about the RCBS is it's basically the same foam all the way through, both sides. One side gets dirty, flip your pad over, run it till it gets dirty. When it gets dirty, you take it to the kitchen sink, a little bit of Dawn dishwashing liquid, just a little bit, a couple drops on there, and you can wash it out like a sponge. Let it dry good. You're back in business, and that pad will last you a lifetime. I started on one when I was 5 years old. I was using it till my reloading stuff got stolen when I was 32 years old. And it was still a perfectly fine serviceable pad that many years later. You know, might as well say 30 years later. So, it's a one-time thing. But I do recommend the RCBS pads. Franklin Arsenals, they're a little cheaper than the RCBS, but again, I don't keep up on prices, but the last time I looked at the RCBS pads, they were about $8. The Frankfurt Arsenal was about $6. You could get it on sale for $4 and some change. For $8, buy a decent pad that's going to last you. The RCBS pad will work with water base or with petroleum base. Okay, so to get into the water-based lubes, and again why I use them and the little trick I've found. And just to show you here, this is a new tube which I opened a few weeks ago, but it's got the paste up in there again. Sorry for the crappy lighting, but this is the best we've got in the shop here. But if you shake it, I'll hold it over here with the microphone, it's full of water. It just sounds like water in the tube. This is one I opened 4 or 5 years ago. And this lube will yellow. That's the reason my pad's yellow. It's from the lube and not from the brass. The water-based lube over time does tend to yellow. Doesn't hurt anything. But what's going to be inside, I'll try not to squirt it all over my camera. Get back here where we'll focus a little. But this has dried to a paste. Now you don't want to let it dry out all the way. Always keep the cap on, keep the cap tight. You don't want to let it dry out. Normally when you get this stuff from Lee, I don't know if this was just a bad production run or what, but it's usually not that thin. However, if you get some that's thin, take the cap off. Make sure that this is not up in your, again, this is a little drier than what it was when I opened it, but you want to shake it to keep it mixed anytime you're using it. However, if you want to let this dry out a little bit, simply take your cap off. Make sure you don't have a bunch up here in your neck, and just leave it out for a few hours. You can leave it out overnight, just don't leave it overnight and not check it. But you can let some of the water dry out of this, because this is water-based. Use wet or let dry, which brings us to the still dye option. A lot of people will put the lube on. Now you can either put the lube on and immediately start running it through your dye. Again, that goes back to our sizer dye video. Explains all that. But if you use it wet, when you get through, you want to clean your sizer dye out, which means taking your decapping stem out and sticking a paper towel in there and twist it around is one way to do it. Use a brush, a mop, whatever. I find just putting the paper towel and twisting the paper towel up in there and then twist it around good usually takes everything out. That way you don't have water-based wet anything in a still dye, which will cause your dye to rust. So that's one option. Because this is wet or dry, the water is just in there to get the lube itself to be able to flow. You can lube all your cases, let them set in the tray. The lube will dry on the case, and then you can run your cases. That's another option if you have that kind of time. If you do stuff in small batches or in batches where, one night you will lube all your cases, size all your cases, whatever. If you can lube them, let them dry, then go back, then size them, then you go back and you prime them, then you go back and you charge them and cap them, then this is perfectly fine to let it set and dry. If you're in a hurry, you can run it wet. If you run it wet, just remember, clean your dye out afterwards. So, back to the how to get away with liming pads. Might as well put this in the drawer because I don't need it. On a normal pad, again, I'm behind the camera. I can only scoop the bed back so far. But you simply want to put a little bit of this, goes a long ways. That's about 10 times more lube than I need. So, again, hopefully without knocking the camera over, because my thing sticks out, just put your little lube on, spread it out over your pad. Now, when you're using the water base, you might get 2 or 3 rolls out of this before it gets too dry. Once it dries on the pad, dry, then it's not going to get on your cases. And always keep a towel handy. So, again, sorry this is going to be a long one, but I won't bother with the case inspection. We do have some problems with these cases, but we'll leave that for the case inspection video. It's better to have too much lube than not enough, especially when you first start running this. If you've got a dry dye, then these cases are really going to want to stick. A stuck case and a sizer dye, sorry, I started calling them cases instead of tubes, so hopefully YouTube won't take our video down. But a stuck case is one of the worst loader's nightmares. There's lots and lots of loader's nightmares, but a stuck case is one of the worst. However, we will be doing a separate video on how to remove a stuck case without buying a $40 stuck case remover. It's not that hard, it's just a pain in the butt. Even with stuck case remover, it's a pain in the butt. And also, depending on how bad the case gets stuck, you do run the chance of damaging a die. So, dented case, that's a line dent. That's not a very good case to use. However, these are going to be used in bunny farts. If you don't know what a bunny fart is, check out that one. But just for a quick reference, it's very, 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 very low pressure, pretty much a gallery round case. Excuse me. So, we have a little bit of lube on our pad. We just roll it across the lube spots. You want to get a little bit of lube, not too much. They say don't put the lube on the necks or on the shoulders, or they say don't put it on the shoulders. That's what a lot of times can lead to the hydraulic dents. However, especially if you're running a water base, these tend to stick. Another thing that these are going to tend to stick on is your expander ball. My 223s, I have to lube the inside of the case or use graphite. I went to using graphite on it. And you can take a Q-tip, when these start sticking, and these probably will on this die. I don't remember, I haven't ran 308s but one time, and that's been a couple years ago. I don't remember how these dies run on expander ball. But the trick is, for when these start sticking on the downstroke, you just want a little bit of lube right there. If you do that, as I said, with a Q-tip and a little lube in there, you want to clean that out. Most all of our rifle cases are going to be held by neck tension and not a crimp. If you have lube inside that neck, that's going to keep that bullet from sticking to the inside of the case by friction, and it can cause, doesn't matter for bench rest, but hunting loads, target loads where you're running magazines, it's going to allow that bullet to slip out of the case. And even if you do crimp them, if you do a light taper crimp, chances of us ever using roll crimps on any stuff we're going to do that I show you or anything like that is probably slim to none, so it's all going to be neck tension or taper crimp. If you have enough lube build up in there, then that's still going to let your bullet slip, even with a crimp. Which is why I won't get into roll crimps and cantilevers and all that right now, because it's just not something we're really going to run into on most of our stuff. So, clean it out. Alcohol on a Q-tip, swab out your case mouth. You've removed all the lube, and you're good. Again, graphite. They even sell little tins of graphite or little plastic things of graphite. I use a tube of, let's see if I've got it, since this is a long video anyway, and you guys are probably bored and fast forwarding. That's my gun slick. I do not use gun slick on it. Well, it's in the back. And I'll have to move the camera to get to it, so we won't go through that much trouble. But it's just little tubes of, sell it at Lowe's, hardware stores. It's a tube, which kind of looks like my gun slick tube, but just a plastic tube with graphite in it that's generally made for door locks. If you ever get a key sticking in the door, stick your little thing up there, the little squirt of powdered graphite, then the key works. So that's an option. Or you can just take, and you don't want to dig into your pad, but just a little spin and get you a little bit of lube up there. But again, remember, if you lube the inside of the case mouth, make sure you clean that lube out. Okay, so now that we have those lubed up, again, my pad's already drying, but, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of lube on this. Another option that the old timers used to use, and especially if they're, doing small batches, bench rest. Again, grab my towel because I'm about to get this all over me. Sip of coffee. A little puff of cherry Cavendish. Thanks, JJ, for sending me the cherry Cavendish. It just goes good with coffee. So, try to figure out once again. I know we'll get a better camera set up, and that's enough lube to do I don't know how many cases. Again, the old timers believed in lots and lots and lots and lots of lube because they're going to wipe them off after they come out anyway. So here's your option. I've seen them, lube on finger and lube on thumb and just over the whole case. You really don't need that much. Also, again, once you start running these cases, the water base, the oil base not so much, but the water base will adhere to the case mouth, and this is one of those do as I say, not as I do. As I say, lube every single case. As I do, a lot of times I will run 2 or 3 lube cases, and there is enough lube inside the die. I can run a dry case, run 2 lube cases, run a dry case. But that comes with years and years and years and years of experience. So, play it safe. Lube every single case. A lot of times when I'm using particularly this lube pad, I don't have that problem with the RCBS, but I will run a heavy lube case just to get everything started. Now, when you start getting lube build up, you can see this. I wish I didn't have this part of my camera tripod sticking out, but you'll get lube build up around your case mouth. Q-tip works handy for that. I have a towel. I'm simply going to wipe that off because it's just around the case mouth. Also, my other dies, you will notice I don't have this on my other dies. I've used this die set one time, bought it for one particular load go round for a friend, and so that's the reason these dies are in that shape. I've used them one time, and that was years ago. Again, my fault for letting things get in that shape. Okay, so once again, Want to put a little more lube on the pad. Get the spider off my pad. Should probably go put some shoes on because the mosquito got me right in the top of the foot, right on the tendon, and that's about to drive me insane. And my floor's dirty, but simply wipe your lube across your pad. As you'll see, maybe if the camera can get it, just a light coat all the way across. And as you roll these, it's going to spread it also. So I just want to make sure I've got a few lubed up cases before I start, because I'm not going to sit here and lube or size 50 cases in front of you. And if you have a little on your finger from spreading it, just wipe it on the case. And that one's ready to go. You can put about as many cases on your pad as what you can get a full row. You want it 360 around the case. I've seen people put 3 or 4 cases on the pad and then roll them all the way across. 2, 2, 3s, I can do 10 at a time. I got 9 on there now. I could put 10 on, but simply roll. And you can put just a little pressure. But I can feel the sticky on my hands here. That means I know that there's lube all the way around these cases. Again, it's better to have a little more than not enough. Again, this is one of those, as I always say, you'll get the feel for it as you go. It's an experience-based thing. So, okay, setting our sizer die up. If you haven't fast forwarded to the end yet. Again, apologize for the, well, that worked earlier, but now it's not going to, because my video doesn't match my camera frame. So I've already put my shell holder in, 308, I'm running my number 2. Anything 308, 30-06, head-based, takes the same shell holder. 45 ACP, 243, 308, 270, 25-06, 30-06, all those. Anyhow, I digress. So, make sure that our die is clear. Again, in the sizer die video, we go through the difference in steel sizer dies and carbide sizer dies. However, the chances of any of y'all running across a carbide bottleneck sizer die is pretty much slim to none, unless you want to pay a couple $100 for one. So we'll just call all rifle sizer dies steel dies for this general purpose. To set a steel sizer die, pull your arm down. Maybe I can move this without loosening my camera. Nope, my hand's sticking out. But you simply want to, and I'll take the camera off and try to do this when I get it down. You want to screw it down. I guess I can do that now. If I lose the camera, then we're going to have to start another video and pick up where we left off. Ignore my mess, because my table is a nightmare right now. You want to screw the die down, which I am short on the lock ring. So I'm going to screw my die down till it touches the ram at full extension. And that is setting a steel die. Now if I can get it back under my rubber band, since I have cracked the tripod without killing us here. Okay. Then we can set our lock ring. Now next time that'll be down. So that ram, the shell holder is touching the sizer die. So we take our lubed up case, pretty simple, slide it all the way into your shell holder. Again, let me see if I can get a little better camera angle here. Maybe. I gotta get a better setup. We simply run our case. And a lot of these cases, if you have an oversized case, one that's been shot in loose chamber, even with lube, now I have had these things just completely coated in lube before, and still have to hold against my die and put some pressure on. This is why I always, even if I'm running progressive or anything like that, I always size my rifle my rifle cases or any of my bottleneck cases in a single stage press because of the torque on the ram. These were fired in a loose chamber AR, so they're probably going to be very oversized. Not bad. Run it down. Primer pops. Leave me a comment down in the comment section down there if you want to see us run the 223 cases. In other words, let's do another video on rifle cases. It's all the same premise, but I have a different size expander ball in it, so if that's something you want to see, we can do it again. If I don't get any comments, I won't do it. If you leave a comment, then we'll do it. This is also getting into the next video, is trimming our tubes to length, because these are always, for some reason, all the factory stuff these days is oversized. Which brings us to, before you trim, you want to size the die fully, because that is going to lengthen your case. Remember, every time you size this die, you squeeze it down and bring it back out. You lengthen that case by so much every time you do it. So before you trim, you want to size all your cases before you trim. I guess I can move my lube pad out the way after I drop all my cases. I'm just not having a good video, babe. Sorry about that. At least my table's clean. Not the scales part. So I don't have to worry about these getting anything on them. If you have a lubed case and you drop it on the floor, wipe it off, re-lube it, do it again, because this lube will hold dirt and grime and anything like that. So I guess that's another good point. And hopefully I can remember which ones were lubed and which ones weren't. So, if we can see this here, again, apologies, we have a dented case mouth. Now that's a simple dent, it's not a crease in. That is going to be perfectly fine to run. If it's going to split, it's going to split on the resize. If it's already split, of course you know to trash it. But if there's no lines in it, or it's not a deep crease, then we can run it. Now this one doesn't have much lube on it, and I really haven't seasoned my dies yet. Ran just fine. And as you can now see, that dent is now gone thanks to the expander ball. And we have a completely sized and deprimed case. Also, when I put them in the tray, I guess since you know how to run one up in the press, there ain't no use in me leaving that there. And again, organize your tray. I'm just doing this as a real quick one-off on the video, so I know what's what and what's where. But if you're going to run half a tray, then run half your tray that you've got lubed up. That way, normally I'll come down to this end, and once that is sized and deprimed, since we have better light down here, and again with the better light, you can see how that took the dent out of the case. For the next stage, you turn that case upside down, That way your empty primer pocket is sticking up, and you know that case has already been sized. Again, 308s with this die and the proper amount of lube is very easy, no muss, no fuss. As you can see, I'm not having to put a lot of pressure on. I have actually lifted this tabletop off, sizing even little 223 bullets. Excuse me, cases. I've actually lifted the tabletop up. The last, what was I running? Wasn't 40s, might have been 40s, I don't know. Anyhow, I was running straight wall cases. Oh, with the 444s. I was running straight wall cases and still lifting the tabletop up from all the pressure. And as you can see, my press is pretty well bolted down, nice and good and heavy. We'll get into that on another vid, but you know, with all the crap, again, ignore my mess, that press, my sizer station, all that that's still on the table, it was still lifting the entire tabletop up. But I did have enough lube that I didn't have to worry about the case sticking in the die. So, I guess I probably don't need to run any more through since we already know how to do that, how to set our sizer. So just to once again cover the basics here. Get your cases inspected. When you start lubing them, if you don't have a lube pad, fingers work fine. In all my years of experience, now again, you know, other boob tubers are probably going to say, you know, well, you have to do it this way, or this is the best way. I'm just telling you what I do, what I use, and why I do it. That's up to you. Make your own decisions. Again, the water base, and as you can see, there's not a lot on here. You do not have to wipe these cases down before you load them, throw them in a box, and fire them. These are already dry. That's a plus. I've never really stuck a case, I don't think, with a water base. I don't think, don't quote me, but I don't think I've ever stuck one with a water base. I have stuck cases with the others because I didn't quite have enough on, or I let them sit